Hey guys, where um, I'm just starting off with my first video here. I wanted to kind of talk about the importance, in relation to what you talked about, Colby, with your first video of free speech, but specifically how important I think it is that we occasionally talk about and even defend arguments that we don't necessarily agree with here. And that, even if it is an argument that we agreed with at a time, that we leave ourselves open to, share arguments that we're not sure of and change our mind later. This idea of a devil's advocate is something that arose in the 1500s in the Catholic Church in their canonization process of saints. And in that canonization process, you'd have God's advocate, and that would be someone that would, go out and gather all the evidence in favor of someone being made a saint. And then you'd have a devil's advocate who would go out and they would, make sure that the logic was sound. They would poke holes in the arguments. They would argue that the miracles were fraudulent and so on. And both the, promoter of the cause, who was God's advocate, and the promoter of the faith, who was the devil's advocate, were appointed by the Pope, and both of them had important roles in this process, right? And you see a little bit of this actually in our own faith. You see this, if someone's being accused of wrongdoing, our scriptures say the accused in all cases has a right to one half of the council to prevent insult or injustice. Those counselors who draw even numbers are the individuals who stand up in behalf of the accused and prevent insult and injustice. And then you see this, of course, in legal settings, right? That, in the U.S., especially, I won't speak to everyone, but the accused has the right to counsel, to an attorney, to argue on their behalf. There are two reasons I think this is important. The first one is because I think arguments are important as a communication tool, right? And when I talk about arguments, I'm not talking about being argumentative. I'm talking about actual, logical arguments where we can say, if A and if A then B, that implies by modus ponens that B is true, right? And then someone else can come at me and say, well, I don't believe A is true, and I think that's important to communicate effectively on an issue. The second reason I think this is important is because I think sometimes we're wrong, and I think it's important, and I think if we're going to explore ideas, if we're going to actually make a positive difference, we have to have a growth mindset where we're willing to fail, willing to be wrong, and I think this needs to be a space where we can allow that. And I think, frankly, there need to be more spaces in the world where we can allow people to say opinions, and we say, you know what, I think you're wrong, but I appreciate your argument, and let's break it down, and this is where we disagree, and we can be very clear about that.